If a woman is attracted to you, she is almost certainly not going to walk up and say it out loud. That is not how attraction tends to work between people. Instead, the interest shows up in small, almost invisible ways, quiet little behaviors that most men never even register. Attraction rarely makes a grand entrance. It slips in through the side door. Here is something worth understanding from the start. Women rarely announce what they feel. The interest comes through in the details, in the quiet moments, in the things that go unspoken. In this video, we are going to walk through 7 subtle signals that often appear when a woman is attracted to someone but has no intention of saying it directly. Stay with this until signal number 4, because that one tends to happen automatically, almost without any conscious control. Before diving in, quick question for you. If you have ever found yourself genuinely unsure whether a woman was interested in you or just being friendly, share that in the comments. You are not alone in that experience. Now let us get into the first signal, the one that most men read completely wrong. One of the clearest signs that a woman feels drawn to someone often shows up in a way that looks completely ordinary. A brief, casual touch. A lot of men write these off immediately. She bumped my arm by accident. She patted my shoulder without thinking. She straightened my collar or dusted something off my sleeve. Easy to dismiss, right? But here is the part that matters. When a woman feels nothing for a man, she naturally keeps her physical distance without even having to think about it. Personal boundaries are important to most people, and we do not casually cross them with someone we feel completely neutral toward. That is exactly why this signal carries so much weight. Women rarely initiate physical contact with someone they have no feelings for. Think back on moments you may have had before. You say something that makes her laugh, and her hand briefly lands on your arm. She reaches over mid-conversation to fix your collar. She brushes something off your shirt that may or may not even be there, or gives you a small playful tap to drive home a point. On the surface, none of that looks significant, but underneath, something psychological is happening. These gestures communicate comfort. They communicate curiosity. When a woman feels pulled towards someone, physical contact becomes a quiet way of testing what is there between them. That small touch is actually her paying attention to your reaction. Do you get awkward and pull back? Do you freeze up? Or do you stay easy and comfortable in the moment? Your response tells her something real about your confidence and how grounded you are emotionally. And here is something many men never consider. Sometimes that touch is not about closeness alone. It is about curiosity. It is curiosity expressed through the body. A wordless question being asked quietly. What does this feel like between us? The most common mistake men make in these moments is overreacting in one direction or the other. Either they get visibly excited and change the whole energy, or they tense up and become stiff. The better response is far simpler. Stay calm, stay natural. Let the moment pass as if it were completely comfortable, because that kind of relaxed ease is exactly what lets attraction continue to build. Here is what is interesting though. That physical touch usually does not appear out of nowhere. There is almost always another signal that comes first, something that shows up before she ever reaches out. Have you ever noticed a woman lightly touching your arm or shoulder while talking to you? Drop your experience in the comments, because the signal we are about to discuss tends to arrive even earlier than that. It lives in the space between you. Before a woman ever closes the gap with a touch, something else tends to happen first. The physical distance between the two of you quietly begins to shrink. Psychologists refer to this as personal space, and it is something every person manages automatically. We all carry an invisible boundary around us, and without thinking about it, we maintain a certain distance from people we feel neutral about, whether that is a stranger, a coworker, or someone we simply do not feel much toward. Attraction changes that equation. When a woman feels genuinely drawn to someone, her body tends to start moving closer, not in a dramatic or obvious way, just in small incremental shifts that reveal interest if you are paying attention. Picture the two of you in a conversation. She leans slightly forward while you are talking. Her shoulders gradually turn toward you even though there are other people around. Inch by inch, The space between you becomes something more personal. These small movements might seem like nothing, but they carry a powerful message. When someone is interested, they move in. When they are indifferent, they maintain or increase the distance. Being closer allows us to take in someone's energy more directly, to hear their voice more clearly, to feel the connection in a more real and immediate way. And here is a mistake many men make in exactly these moments. When a woman leans in, the man leans back. He does not want to crowd her. He worries about making things uncomfortable, so he creates more space. But that reaction can quietly work against the moment. If she moved closer, it is almost always because she already felt comfortable being there. The goal is not to move aggressively toward her. The goal is simply not to pull away. Stay relaxed. Hold the space that naturally formed. When that distance feels right to both people, it creates a quiet kind of intimacy that makes the conversation feel like something other than a normal exchange. This is why body language matters so much when it comes to attraction. Words can be polite, words can be completely neutral, but the body tends to be more honest than the mouth. Once you start noticing these small shifts in space and posture, you begin to see the line between someone who is simply being friendly and someone who is genuinely interested in you. But the next signal is even more interesting because it does not require movement at all. It appears in one of the quietest moments in any conversation, a moment when neither person is saying a word. Sometimes the clearest signal of attraction shows up in total silence. No gesture, no contact, no words. Just a look that lingers a little longer than it should. Eye contact is one of the most powerful nonverbal tools human beings have. And in ordinary conversation, people tend to glance at each other briefly and then look away. It keeps things feeling comfortable. It prevents the interaction from becoming too intense. But attraction rewires that pattern. When a woman feels drawn to someone, her eyes tend to reveal it before anything else. Instead of quick, polite glances, her gaze may hold for just a moment longer than usual. 3 seconds, maybe 4, sometimes even longer if the moment feels natural. And those extra few seconds can completely shift the energy between two people. You might notice she holds eye contact while you are speaking, listening with more focus than usual. Sometimes a small smile appears while she is looking at you. Other times, the conversation pauses briefly, and instead of glancing away, she simply keeps her eyes on yours. That moment might feel small, but psychologically it is significant. Sustained eye contact builds connection. It creates a sense of closeness between two people without either of them having to say anything at all. Here is where many men make a common mistake. When that extended eye contact happens, they look away. Sometimes it is nerves. Sometimes the intensity of the moment catches them off guard. But by breaking the contact too quickly, that quiet window of connection closes. Handling these moments well does not require staring someone down or trying to project dominance. All it takes is staying calm and holding the contact naturally for just a bit longer than you normally would. When you do that, something shifts. The conversation starts to feel more personal, more engaged, and sometimes charged with something that is hard to name but easy to feel. Because eye contact is often the first place where attraction becomes visible to both people. It carries curiosity, it carries attention, and sometimes it carries emotions that words are not ready to express yet. But here is something subtle. You can sometimes pick up on attraction without even focusing on her eyes, because the next signal shows up in something most men never think to pay attention to at all: her voice. Attraction does not only live in how someone moves or where they look. Sometimes it appears in something far more understated: the way a woman talks to you. Most people assume that someone's voice stays roughly the same from one conversation to the next. But the truth is that tone, pace, and warmth all shift depending on how we feel about the person in front of us. When a woman feels attracted to someone, her voice often changes without her being aware of it at all. It may become slightly softer. The pace may slow down a little. The overall warmth of it increases. Instead of speaking quickly and casually the way she might with friends or people she sees daily, her tone with you may carry something more relaxed, more intimate, almost as if the conversation has drifted into a private space even when you are both surrounded by other people. These shifts are not calculated. They are the body responding honestly to emotion. When we feel genuinely comfortable around someone and drawn to them, the nervous system settles and that ease comes through in the voice. The tone smooths out, becomes more expressive, sometimes even a little playful. As someone who has experienced this firsthand, it is worth saying honestly that most women do not consciously decide to change how they sound around someone they like. It simply happens on its own when they enjoy being in someone's presence. But there is a detail worth paying attention to. Notice how she speaks to other people nearby and compare that to how she speaks to you. With others, her voice might be casual, brisk, or neutral. With you, there may be more warmth, more attention in it. That difference is meaningful because attraction tends to show up in small automatic adjustments like that, ones that happen without any deliberate effort. The key is not to analyze every word she says, but to tune into the feeling behind the tone. Does the conversation feel warmer with her? More personal? A little more intimate than a normal exchange would be? If the answer is yes, that probably is not a coincidence. And interestingly, this signal often shows up alongside another one, something that can completely change the atmosphere of a conversation in the best possible way. Her laughter, a surprisingly straightforward signal that someone may be feeling attraction, is that she laughs more around you. Now, laughter alone does not automatically point to romantic interest. Some people are genuinely cheerful and laugh freely in most conversations. But when a woman consistently finds more to laugh about, specifically when she is around you, it can mean something deeper is happening. Because laughter is not just a reaction to humor, it is a bridge between people. When two people feel genuinely at ease with each other, laughter starts flowing naturally. It reduces tension, builds warmth, and makes the whole interaction feel enjoyable and safe. When a woman feels attracted to someone, something interesting tends to happen with her sense of humor. Even comments that are fairly ordinary suddenly seem a little funnier than they might otherwise. You make a simple observation, nothing especially clever, and she responds with real laughter. She smiles throughout the conversation. She reacts warmly to things you say that barely register with anyone else in the room. This is not because you magically became more entertaining. It is because attraction changes how we perceive the people we are drawn to. When the interest is there, even everyday moments can feel more enjoyable, and laughter becomes one of the natural ways that feeling comes out. Sometimes the signal gets even clearer through smaller details happening at the same time. She might touch your arm lightly while laughing. She might lean in a little as she reacts to something you said. She might keep the playful energy going even after the joke has run its course. All of this helps create a kind of lightness between you, a sense that being together is genuinely fun. Where men sometimes go wrong here is in killing that energy by suddenly shifting into a serious or overly analytical mode. That switch can drain the atmosphere very quickly. The better approach is to stay present, keep things relaxed, and let the conversation breathe. When laughter comes naturally and freely, it usually means both people feel free to be themselves. And that is precisely the kind of space where real attraction develops and grows. Many of the strongest connections between people begin with nothing more complicated than two people genuinely enjoying each other's company. And often that laughter is triggered by something else happening at the same time, a small, almost automatic behavior that many women are not even conscious of, something connected to how she feels about the way she looks around you. It often shows up in something as simple as her hair. Attraction sometimes announces itself through a gesture so minor that most people never think twice about it. A woman touching her hair when she's around you. It sounds almost too simple to matter. But this is actually one of the most consistently reported unconscious behaviors linked to attraction. When a woman becomes aware of someone she finds genuinely interesting, her attention drifts very subtly toward how she is presenting herself. And one of the most instinctive ways that self-awareness surfaces is through her hair. She might tuck a strand behind her ear while talking to you. She might lightly twirl a piece of it between her fingers while listening. She smooths it down, adjusts it, or casually moves it out of her face. These things happen automatically. They are not carefully staged signals designed to communicate interest. In many cases, the woman doing them is not even aware they are happening. But psychologically, they point to something real. When we feel drawn to someone, we become more conscious of our own appearance. Small grooming behaviors begin appearing naturally because somewhere beneath the surface, we want to put our best self forward. Hair carries a particular significance in that process. It tends to be tied to how we feel about our femininity, our attractiveness, our ability to express ourselves, which is why it becomes a kind of focal point when a woman feels that combination of excitement and nervousness that comes with being around someone she is attracted to. Touching it becomes a quiet release valve for that energy, a way of managing the feeling while also making sure everything looks right in the moment. Context is important here, though. One instance of hair touching during a conversation means very little on its own. But if you notice it happening repeatedly, especially when it coincides with extended eye contact, warm laughter, or her leaning closer toward you, it starts to form part of a larger picture. Attraction reveals itself through patterns, not through any single isolated moment. You might notice her tuck her hair while looking at you, then laugh easily at something you say, then adjust it again a few minutes later. Those small signals start to create a rhythm. Once you begin recognizing that rhythm, you can start to feel the difference between casual friendliness and genuine interest. There is one final signal that catches many men completely off guard because it has nothing to do with body language. It lives in the questions she asks you. When a woman feels genuinely attracted to someone, she wants to know more about him. Not just the easy surface-level details, but the parts of his life that say something real about who he is. The conversation begins to shift naturally. Small talk starts giving way to something with more substance. She asks about your work and what you actually enjoy about it. She becomes curious about what you do with your time, what your goals look like, what matters to you. Sometimes she even ventures into more personal territory, asking about your past or what you are hoping for in the future. On the surface, these might seem like ordinary conversation questions, but psychologically they point to something important. When someone asks personal questions, they are putting real attention and emotional energy into understanding you as a person. And people do not make that kind of investment without feeling something. Curiosity, in this sense, is often a sign of attraction. It means she's not just passing time in the conversation, she's trying to understand the person sitting in front of her. It is emotional investment expressed as interest in your story. The more curious she becomes, the more likely it is that she is already imagining what it might feel like to know you more deeply over time. This often shows up in subtle but meaningful ways. She asks follow-up questions when you mention something that catches her attention. She remembers small details you shared earlier and circles back to them. She wants to hear more. These moments matter because when a woman starts asking questions like these, she's doing something more than keeping a conversation alive. She's quietly taking stock of who you are, your values, your direction, your character. Not in a judgmental way, but in a genuinely curious one. She is asking herself a question she may not even fully realize she is asking. Is this someone I want to know more deeply? Where many men miss the opportunity here is in treating these questions too casually. They give short answers, assuming the questions are just filler. But when a woman is showing real curiosity about your life, it is often an opening to build something more meaningful. The best response is not complicated. Answer honestly, share something real about yourself, and then return the curiosity by asking about her experiences. Because when two people become genuinely curious about each other, the conversation shifts from ordinary to something that actually matters. When you look at all of these signals together, something becomes clear. It is never about any single one of them. When you step back and look at the full picture, a pattern begins to emerge. And that is the most important thing to take away from all of this. One signal by itself does not equal attraction. A woman touching her hair might just be a habit. Laughter might simply mean the moment was genuinely funny. Eye contact is a normal part of conversation. But attraction does not show up in a single moment. It shows up in a pattern. When several of these signals start appearing together, the picture becomes far harder to misread. Picture a conversation where she holds eye contact a little longer than usual, laughs easily at what you say, leans slightly toward you while listening, and at some point lightly touches your arm. Taken individually, any one of those things could be coincidence. But together, they form something that is very difficult to explain away. This is why reading attraction is less about memorizing a list of behaviors and more about learning to observe the full dynamic between two people. Attraction is a pattern, not a single isolated moment. When you begin paying attention to these patterns, something useful starts to happen. Conversations become easier to navigate. You stop second-guessing every interaction. You begin to recognize the difference between someone being polite and someone actually being interested, and that awareness changes how you show up. Instead of hesitating or overthinking, you become more relaxed and more present. You notice the signals, you respond naturally, the interaction moves forward in a way that feels easy rather than forced. There is one more thing worth saying here that many men get wrong. Noticing these signals does not mean anything is finished or decided. Attraction is a beginning. It is an opening, not an end point. Real connection develops over time as two people continue to build comfort, trust, and emotional closeness together. And that is where a specific kind of confidence matters. Not the aggressive or performative kind, but the calm, grounded kind. The type that lets you notice what is happening, appreciate it, and respond naturally without pushing or forcing anything. Because the man who is present enough to notice these signals is usually the one who ends up being noticed in return. Now here is something worth reflecting on. Which of these signals surprised you the most? And if you have ever looked back on a situation and realized the woman was showing you some of these signs and you completely missed them in the moment, share that story. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to recognize their own moment when it comes.